All right. A very good afternoon to all, and I humbly welcome everyone to today's forum entitled Malaysia Open Science Platform, Bridging the Gap in Research Ecosystem. My name is Noor Muhammad, and I will be your MC for today. Open science has changed scientific practice to respond to the developments, challenges, and opportunities in the digital age of the 21st century. Hence, this requires innovative changes in the research infrastructure. It is our intention to give participants the exposure to the infrastructures in Malaysia that support the open science movement that is currently burgeoning. Additionally, this forum is held in line with the mission to showcase the harmonization of research and data platforms for an advancement of research ecosystem in Malaysia. Before we begin, here are some housekeeping rules for today's forum. Should you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question box control panel. Later, your questions will be brought up during the Q&A session towards the end of today's agenda. On that note, I would like to invite Professor Dr. Nur Saada Abdul Rahman, Fellow of Academy Sciences of Malaysia, and also the chairperson of Malaysia Open Science Alliance to deliver her welcoming remark. Please welcome.
Thank you, Noor. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good afternoon to everyone. On behalf of the Academy of Sciences Malaysia and the Malaysian Open Science Alliance, I would like to welcome you to the Forum on Malaysia Open Science Platform, Bridging the Gap in Research Ecosystem. Thank you for joining us today, and your time is greatly appreciated. This forum is to showcase the harmonization of research and data platform in Malaysia that can enhance research ecosystem and support open science. It will be an avenue for all of us to discuss and to share our experiences, opinion, and also expertise about open science, its infrastructure and other things, and how we can achieve holistic research environment. Malaysia is moving towards the development of technology through research, development, commercialization, and innovation, as mentioned in the National Policy of Science, Technology, and Innovation 2021-2030. Following this, Malaysian Open Science Platform, or MOSP, is one of the strategies adopted to enhance the open science sharing or open data sharing, and in future to contribute towards open innovation. In research, data sharing is a must in order to drive the nation to go forward. Let us see an example of the Human Genome Project, where the project was accomplished 2 years earlier because the research data was shared through the World Wide Web. In today's world, COVID-19 would be the best example on how data sharing can push the progress of science forward, where innovations such as testing kits, tracking systems, vaccines are invented and upgraded in a short amount of time through collaboration. Sharing data, which is the heart of open science, makes research findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable or fair, which is a practice that would greatly help the research scene to grow its full potential. Open science is not a new agenda. It has been done successfully around the globe. And there are various countries that have developed their own initiative in open science. For example, Australia and Japan already have their own open science platform where research data can be accessed publicly and also formulated policies to support these initiatives. Previously, MOSP have done a few webinar and workshops focusing on the policies and guidelines, awareness, and also on citizen science. This is to start the discussion on open science in Malaysia. In addition to a comprehensive policy that supports open science, we need to talk about the backbone of the movement, which is the infrastructure of open science. Without the right infrastructure in place, open science would not be achieved. So Malaysia has already established a few data and research platforms that can assist researchers to collaborate and manage their data. These are already some steps into the right direction of open science that we aim for. Today we have Mampu, we have Sifulan, we have MOSP representing some of the various efforts to enhance research data sharing and nationally and internationally. But we hope that this can be enhanced further, and this forum will help us to address the opportunity and gaps in the research ecosystem and how open science can support research and development towards development of technology through data sharing. So I thank you again for joining us in the forum today, and may we have a very fruitful evening. Thank you very much, and I return you back to the Noor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Noor Saada, for your speech. Now, I would like to invite our keynote speaker, Dr. Fazida Abubakar, to deliver her keynote speech entitled Governing Data-Driven Ecosystem. But before, allow me to briefly introduce our keynote speaker. Dr. Fazida Abubakar is the Director of Digital Government Division at Mampu. Her professional background includes application development, database management, ICT training, ICT policy and guideline development, ICT assessment, project management, and among other things. Her contributions to a number of ICT programs include initiatives within the transportation, trade facilitation, big data analytics, ICT strategic planning, and enterprise architecture. So without further ado, I welcome Dr. Fazida.
Thank you. Give me a second. Okay, everybody can see the slides?
Yes, can.
All right, thank you. Okay, good afternoon to everybody in this sharing session. And first and foremost, I would like to thank you, Prof. Dr. Saada, and the team from Open Academy of Science Malaysia for inviting Mampu to have a session on keynote delivery for today. Today, I'm going to talk about governing data-driven ecosystem. Okay. This is not showing, previous, let me see, previous. Okay, what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to share 4 things for the course of my keynote. First is I'm to talk about why there is importance on data-driven. And second is I'm going to share in terms of what we have done in pursuing the data-driven initiative. And lastly is on sharing in terms of how the need to govern the data in terms of from the public sector, but this is also applicable and towards sharing the data from the research data point of view. As you all know that why we need to share in terms of having it in data-driven is that with current situation, in terms of that, we have the facility of data, any devices is in terms of portability, and it's the connectivity is available anytime, and we can do it anywhere. And from this is due to in the backdrop is because of it digital at the core. And from here is already have disrupted our life individually, be it in terms of your organization and also in part of the ecosystem. However, as mentioned earlier by Prof. Dr. Saada, is actually when the pandemic COVID-19, due to the social distancing and restriction, is further escalate further as a catalyst towards digitalization. And when you look at it, we have to see that from the perspective of digital, that it's not the thing. It's actually more of a way of doing things. When we look on this aspect, is that the digital is about creating the value to a potential business innovation, and also a value to us, like as a customer, in terms of the experience on receiving the services. And without indirectly, we also in terms of building capabilities to ensure to support the entire ecosystem. So this is why all along, when we talk about digital, on the backdrop of this whole landscape is actually, we talk about data. And you see that for the past, I think for the past 3 to 4 years, actually the amount of data that already gathered and circulated into our ecosystem is trillions, and is so many overloading of data. And this is where we see that the opportunity that they are saying that data is new oil, but I would say data is the soil, because if we have the data, if we treat it as an oil, is once you use it, it's done. But if you treat it as soil, to make sure the potential of further digitalization to grow, then this is where it can be more value will be generated. So in this form, we have to see the data as for research is a way of innovation. Yeah, we can optimize and transform in terms of the government services, but it's a room or avenue for innovation. And talking about innovation, without we can't deny, the expectation, the demand of the data from the various perspective of stakeholders. To the government, what we need is that the public data trust. We need that data trust, and the data is of value to make sure that for more efficient public service delivery. And of course, when it comes to the industry or the citizen, the concern on the personal data in terms of to ensure that it's secure and it's protected, and also without to ensure that the use of the citizens' data to ensure that the protection doesn't endanger or is for the economic growth and for the profit and also for knowledge. Similarly, also the data is from the research point of view, of course, it's for the future, for the interest of scientific research and for the potential of more innovation. So this is a multi-perspective of the context of data, but all in all is actually from overall globally, we are looking on more on towards for the betterment of the citizen, for the economic growth, and that ultimately currently we have the reference on the Sustainable Development Goals, the UN 2030. So this is the cooperation between government, industry, academia, citizens, all interests of the data to ensure that our lives are better, and also in terms of the government, the prosperousness of the nation, and also the citizen overall. So that, when we look at it, there's a lot of data that we require. And previously, the focus is more like people, process, technology. But now you see that due to the many of the data have been created and explosion of data from various infra from various platforms, then we need to manage the data. And from there, we need to classify in terms of the data, whether when it comes from in terms of data sharing, whether to the extent what data to be open by default, and what are the platforms that we are providing, and how to ensure that when we talk about data is actually, when you provide the services, you are thinking about the digital by design, and to ensure the adoption, or in terms of to make sure the usage of the data in the value of data is actually a user driven, or now we are more people will prefer say it's citizen centric, but it's actually citizen centric is in terms of the citizen, but for user is of use of adoption, and in terms of make sure it is a proactiveness in making decision, because we have the data. All of this need to be governed, and we need to ensure that such policies and regulation, and in terms of platform, skills, and culture, mindset, all must be together in tandem to ensure for the data-driven. When OECD, when talk about data-driven, it's qualified when the organization recognizes data as a key strategic asset. Second is data is seen as an active effort. It's not things that a barrier. It's facilitating. The avenue that it applies data to transform or to innovate, and it values the effort to data sharing. And first, and also lastly, is about we address on the citizens' concern on we understand the data rights of the citizen in terms of the protection. So all in all is that we from the perspective of mindset on a data-driven government, we are to make sure that these positive impacts will be materialized in terms of decision making, on terms effective service delivery, in terms of governance, and openness and independence. So in Mampu, as a leading organization for ICT or digitalization, what we have done so far for the past 5 years, actually, we have tackled in terms of the policy, on the strategy, on the governance, in terms on the guidelines. We have currently guidelines on open data, on the data analytics, and also the platform. We have the platform right now on data, open data portals, and also data analytics, and also on the data exchange platform. And subsequently, we also we have the engagement and hand-holding session with the agencies, also with we have an open data user group, and similarly, like we have been also involved with Mosp, and this is one of the way that we have activity that to ensure that the data-driven initiative lives on consistently in the public sector. Also, we in terms of capacity building, we conduct for awareness, for data cleaning, for identifying the data, open data. We also have a yearly innovation section for creating a session for awareness. We have Open Data Day, and we have also hackathons. This last year, recently, we rebrand the hackathon to Chapter, yeah, challenge in program advancement, technological advancement in programming for product for technological advancement. I forgot the actual one. And also we also participated last 2 years. We participated. Mampu team participated in Asia Open Data Hackathon together with lastly is on the strategic collaboration. We have collaborated with Asia ODI, Asia Open Data Charter also, and Asia Open Data Partnership. We are one of the members for Malaysia, and together with we have MOU with Republic of Korea in related to open data and big data initiative. With UN DASA, the UN is related to the UN EG government survey that that we are actively part of the government performance ranking globally for all the UN state members. So talking about United Nations e-government survey, this is one of the elements that the government is looking into. And this is our performance for last year in 2020, where for the EGDI, we are one of the countries that in the category of a very high e-government development index. Any indexes that is above 0.75 qualifies to be in that range, in that category, very high EGDI. Yeah. So this one, for overall, for EGDI, we are second, of course, always behind Singapore. Yeah, Asia, we are number 10, and and number 47. Yeah, in global. What I'm sharing is that EGDI is actually, they have 3 components. Yeah, one component is on online service index, OSI. The other 2 components is on human capital index, and another one is on the infrastructure, TII, telecoms infrastructure index. When it comes on related to data, its contribution is towards OSI. That is why I'm focusing on the OSI, whereby partially in terms of OSI, last year 2020, for this survey, they have the UN have already introduced Open Government Data Index, OGDI. It's the first time they've already they introduced. That is where, based on the criteria, that Malaysia is one with other 42 countries fulfill the criteria. Basically, what I can share with you, the criteria for last year, because it was an introduction, they look on whether you have any policies, similarly like what I have already mentioned, the activities that they have done. They have platform, they have policies, we have some engagement, they have building skills, all of these that create the OGDI. However, I'm not sure for this coming surveys. I'm sure that there will be a different measurement criteria maybe in terms of impact or adoption that can that will be looked into. So just sharing you on for 2020, we are not bad. We are together with the other 42 countries that fulfill the index criteria. Similarly, into local government online service index also, they are also looking into partly on innovation and how the use of data, one of the criteria, but I'm not going to go detail on that. And also e-participation is to the extent that how we engage, how we make sure that we make decision or we consult in terms of sharing with all parties, be it government, be it the research institution, or be it the citizens or not communities. Okay, and this is what I'm saying, that in Open Government Data Index, they are looking into this 5 domain in terms of social security, employment, education, health, justice. And you will see that from here, plus environment, you see that in Asia, the one that a bit gray there, yeah, in Asia, there is a lacking on in terms of justice, yeah, and of course we lacking justice, but we are still around to the 40%, not unlike in Europe, yeah, about 80% quadrant there. Okay, so when we talk about that performance, when now currently we have that fulfill the perfect one index, the challenges is that to ensure that we will get that perfect one for this upcoming evaluation. What we'll do is that in conjunction with the national My Digital, I'm sure you all know that recently the Prime Minister have just launched on the My Digital, and I'm just extracting 2, but you can have a look on. There's a lot of initiative in terms of to make sure the Malaysian digital economy, the aspiration of it fulfilled for the next 10 years. Actually, this one was planned until 2030. And what I'm showing you is that from the trust, they have 6 trusts, and I'm extracting trust 1, and in related to data driven is under trust 1 is drive digital transformation in the public sector in strategy 8. They have established data-driven policy development and improve the data sharing environment to ensure data quality. So here we will say that what our concerns now in terms of data sharing, in terms of quality, is been stated, it's been planned, and the implementation is now. From here, you see that Mampu is expected to drive together with the ministries and agencies to ensure that this strategy is realized, and they establish like in terms of for the next 5 years, the target is 50% data must be machine readable. With access to the data through APIs. When they formulated this, they only put 50 for the 5 years. But what we aim is in Mampu, we want it by earlier than that. We have already 50%. In fact, we hope that by the next 2-3 years is actually everything is 100% machine readable. For information, currently for what we have in our portal right now, we are going through all the data sets that we have in Open Data portal to ensure that the data set is in a machine readable format and ready for APIs ready. So give us time. As of now, we are at 35%. So when we target is for 5 years, we can do it. In fact, earlier than that, we can achieve it to ensure that is facilitating the public and the researchers so that we have the data sets in a API ready format. We also have the data exchange platform. I'm sure the secretariat from Mosp also have been briefed on the platform, and we currently are underway to enhance it even further to make sure that this will be the data exchange where all the agencies are to use this data exchange platform for exchanging the data. And of course, when we exchange the data, it will be API based. Okay, this is not only what we're doing, but what I'm trying to state here is that the data-driven policy and also in terms of the platform, we are doing the continuous enhancement and facilitating it for all the government agencies usage. Second one is in the perspective of boost economic competitiveness through digitalization. This is Trust 2. Is organized a national open data digital challenge. This is one that I think for last year we have that mostly have from initiative from mostly on My Hackathon. So this they are going to go to continue on doing it and making it more commercialized. And I think this is one of the avenue that for innovation, where researchers can also challenge themselves for any new innovation from this platform. Okay, so how we go about governing the data. For the public sector, we have this strategic plan, and one of it is one of the pillars that we have is on harnessing the data intelligence. You can have a look at our website that we have a 5-year plan, and also it will be in tandem with our My Digital. And what we have in the pipeline is, as I mentioned earlier, is enhanced, scalable, secure data exchange is on the MyGDX. We are going to ensure that it's scalable and secure. Now we are undergoing the procurement phases. And number 2 is on develop policy and act for data sharing and decision. Just to inform, we are in the latest stage for the policy, data sharing policy, yeah, for data sharing from within government to government to citizen, government to business, and we have that. Hope that by sooner by July or August, hope that we can get it up to be expedite to the to the agencies to follow. Number 3 is that cultivate data sharing through open data. This is actually we do it continuously. We have programs with the agencies, and also we will have another round chapter sometimes in September or October. Yeah, we will get it open soon for participation. Yeah? And capability, competency also we are doing it continuously to ensure that the data science or any data-driven capabilities will be more people, especially in the public sector, in the government offices. Yeah, establish of an innovation lab, open data. This actually we have very long requested for the government to have an innovation lab so that we can have not only open data but also for big data. We hope that it will get approved. We have yet to get this one approved, yeah, due to budget constraint. Increase the quantity and quality of open data. Yeah, currently a focus on the quality. Yeah, and at the same time we are trying to we are coming up to ensure that more agencies are aware the importance of the data, and increased usage and innovation on open data also is in the pipeline. And we really encourage any innovation on using the emerging technologies. All in all, is actually the most important is what is the different from the previous and the current one is that this initiative, we are, as far as the public sector, we are forming a governance structure that being monitored from central, from Mampu to the agencies, and also we are also have the avenue to report to My Digital checked by PM. So this is good in terms of to ensure that we can showcase new innovation and also any issues or any ideas that we can escalate it to our top men in the administration, and also the PM, Prime Minister for that matter, through My Digital. For information, Mampu is the secretariat for the government cluster that reports to KSN and also for at the Prime Minister level. So with that, I've done my sharing on what we have now, and what I'm doing. My conclusion is, my key takeaway is that previously we don't have a proper governance structure whereby that we have the audience from the involvement from top. But with the My Digital, we hope that any data-driven initiative, like open science, have also the platform later on to whether to showcase or to highlight your ideas or any concern through this proper governance, so that it's also being monitored through the plan, the My Digital plan. I hope my sharing will enlighten you in terms of how to moving forward for your subsequent platform at MOSP. And believe me, research data is also important. This morning, they have just some sharing, is that how China managed to spark on their economy. Is what the lesson learned is that they have so many research data, and from the innovation they learn, and all all in all, they make it into adoption. So when they adopt from the research, they have through e-commerce, leverage on the leveraging technologies, they managed to spur their economy from the e-commerce. That what the lesson, some of the lesson learned from the China experience. So I hope I won't. That's it from me. So I pass over to back to you. No.
All right.
Hold on.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Fazida, for your insightful keynote speech. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to continue our forum session today with a panel discussion. The topic for the panel discussion today is Bridging the Gap in Research Ecosystem. The session for today will be moderated by Dr. Nurzatil Sharliza binti Mat Jalaluddin. Before that, let's get to know our moderator for today. Dr. Nurzatil is a senior lecturer at Center for Research in Biotechnology for Agriculture at University of Malaya. She is currently an ex-official member of Malaysia Open Science Alliance and also a member of the Open Science Task Force. Without further ado, I will pass the floor to Dr. Nurzatil to commence our forum discussion.
Thank you very much, Noor. Okay, yang berusaha Profesor Dr. Nursada Abdul Rahman, the Chairperson of Malaysia Open Science Alliance, Dr. Fazida Abubakar, the Director of Digital Government Division from Mampu, our panelists for today, and all participants. Assalamualaikum and a very good afternoon, good evening, and to everyone from not just Malaysia, but also from other parts of the world. Okay. Open science is a growing practice that aims at making scientific research and data accessible to all through the FAIR guiding principles, which are the findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. So data sharing is also one of the keys to enhance technology development through research. With open science, various data sources and massive databases will be integrated to the reach, at giving us the access to the rich data sets. And all this will yield to remarkable insights and solutions to local, regional, and global challenges. Malaysia Open Science Platform, MSP, is realized to strengthen STI collaborative ecosystem in Malaysia, which aims to make research data as a national asset for Malaysia by creating a secure portal for data accessibility and data sharing. Besides MSP, there are also other services such as the portal data.gov.my by Mampu, the Seafulan platform, and also the Malaysia Biodiversity Information System, MyBIS. All of these provide access to the data and bridging the gaps in Malaysia research ecosystem. So for those who are listening on Zoom, you are invited to submit your questions as we go along using the Q&A panel. In fact, actually, we already have 8 questions posted on the Q&A panel even before the panel discussion started. So I'm sure there are more questions will be posted throughout our session. This forum is also live streaming on the Academy of Sciences Malaysia Facebook page. So if you're watching us on Facebook, feel free to drop by your questions in the comment box. So thank you also to all the participants for the time spent in this for joining this forum. So for all the panels, please also feel free to answer the questions through the Q&A panel session. Okay. So without further delay, I would like to introduce the panelists for today. So ladies and gentlemen, we are privileged to have 3 panelists to discuss about the topic that we have chosen today. The first panelist is Dr. Liu Chi-san. Dr. Liu Chi-san is a senior lecturer at the Department of Computer Science and Technology, Faculty of Computer Science and Information Technology, University of Malaya. He currently holds the position as the head of Working Group on Infrastructure from Malaysia Open Science Platform. Dr. Liu is also the head of Data Intensive Computing Center at the Office of Associate Vice Chancellor, Research and Innovation in His areas of expertise include data-intensive computing, grid computing, high-performance computing, and distributed computing. So without further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Liu Chi-Sign for his presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Zatil. Okay, let me share my screen now. Give me a minute. All right. Can you see my screen, Zatil?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Chairperson, for the introduction. And thank you, Dr. Fazida, for giving the keynote speech, because you have answered a lot of the questions and a lot of the aspects of the slides that I'm about to present. I'll be giving 10 minutes to share some progress and also the ideas of the MOSP. As a lecturer, I've prepared 30 slides, and in 10 minutes, I'm supposed to finish it. So just in case, Sati, just give me a much. Okay. Let's go through the slides here. Today I'm going to spend 10 minutes to share with you the progress about this Malaysian open science platform. So of course, the first question always asked is like, why we care about this open science? And luckily, as what has been presented by Dr. Fazida just now, now we are entering this information era where, if from a scientific perspective, we always say we are entering the fourth scientific paradigms, right? From the empiricals, theoreticals, computation, and now to this e-science or the data-driven science here. So it means in a typical example of one of these astronomical use cases, where we see we are using this kind of advanced devices to capture all this data, including the one shown here is for the astronomy. If you look at the particle physics, yes, we have all these advanced machines in the Large Hadron Colliders experiment set up in CERN. But all this data that you have here collected coming in terabytes or gigabytes per second, it will then need to be analyzed. So the second key components here will be facilities to be able to do this data integration, connecting different data sources from different places, analyze and visualize them. So if you look at the examples before this or the research that we've been conducting 20 years ago, perhaps maybe this is the point in the third paradigm we already stopped it, right? But unfortunately for today's, whatever data that we have produced, it may not, okay, maybe I'll put it this way. The data that we have, okay, even though we have answered the questions in our research, we've answered the question in our research, but at the same time, the data can be then used to generate more insight for others' research as well. So what we want to do next is try to curate all this information, right? Adding some metadata to describe this data set so that it can be then archived and, more important, to share it. So this is now a modern data science or data intensive science process here. So as a typical scientist, so what are we facing on a daily basis? Well, we look at these 6 stages of the research data lifecycle. From the moment we acquire the data, either from public repositories, from our own sensors, even from existing data sets that has been analyzed by someone and shared by someone, then we go through this process of getting the data integrated, process it using a very nice platform, and of course, doing our details analysis. And we look at the green phases here. This is where the process is or the research is still active. So once the research is done, what we want to do next is make sure that the data is properly curated so that to prolong the longevities of the data itself and make it shareable and accessible. So such a data repositories, as you can see here on the sharing parts, and also discovery services can help you to increase the visibilities of the data set become crucial, become very important. So this is all the aspects we just look at from the research data perspective, right? Okay, so this is a Beijing Declaration of Research Data made 2019, okay, in Beijing, of course. And inside these declarations here, there are 10 principles that already been highlighted, right? I'm not going to go through these details. If you just Google it, or if not later, I'll provide you the link to these declarations. And it highlights a few important points here. The value of research data increased with use. I told the Fazida said just now, data is a new soil, right? Yeah. So the value, the more you use it, basically it increases the value throughout all these processes here. Then it highlights 2 important keys here. So the data set that we have, if possible, we should make it as open as possible, but also at the same time as close as necessary. So the concept here is not, if you talk about open science, if our impression is open science means open all the data set. Well, I have to say open science not equals to open data. What we are championing here, what we are, the world's open science is moving towards is trying to make the data open as possible under a well-defined condition. Means that if that's involve any data related to the national securities, personal data, like the question asked by Dr. Ibrahim just now, if this is the personal data, if this is involve national securities, then those data shouldn't be made open. So the open science here emphasize on fair data and not open data. All right. Okay. Then in the same declarations, they highlight two interesting aspects here. One is to address the divide in scientific production, which is this part over here. Okay. So the for the last 2 years, when I attend all these conferences and discussion on this open data, open science, one of the major concerns that raised in all these conversations always include one. So when we come to this open science, open data flow, so the data is put on the table so everybody can access to it. Then those countries, those more developed countries, well, obviously they have more advantages to access it because of they have the infrastructures, they have the knowledge, they have the expertise. All right. So how we protect the benefits of the global south become one of the important issues here. So later when I talk about the UNESCO declarations, then you will see that's actually some one part that emphasize on this open infrastructure for research. All right, and one more, they highlight in these declarations on the research data stewardship plans. It highlights the words of the data stewardship here. So we from researchers, they produce the data sets, right? So they should be these professionals that will help them to manage the data set, to manage the entire data management lifecycle. Even before the things start, the research start, they should have this research data management plan. And when the data has come to the end of the research, how to curate it. So this curation management of the data will play by this research data stewards role. All right. Okay. Now come to this core question: what is open science? All right. So if we ask about this open science, this is in these studies they try to engage a different audience from, you can see different parts of the world, from the West, Asia, Arab states. This is all the definitions they give. Okay, so which is true, it covers, the first thing will come into our mind will be open access to all the scientific scholarly publications, yes. Open data, all the data sets should be made open and reproducible research. Okay, means that the research we are talking about is the transparencies of the research that we are doing today. All right, yeah, so all this, if you're looking at the verbal definitions of open science, yes, you can have something like this, which highlight open science actually is not about a new science. No, it's about a way, it's about a new approach. It's about the way how we conduct science now. So open science should cover is various movements or practices, right? Try to ensure one thing, make sure that the scientific knowledge process and the scientific the scientific knowledge is openly available, accessible, and reusable by everyone. Okay, and the reason for doing this is, well, if it is not to increase more collaborations or the use of the knowledge, so what could it be, right? So this is a very nice definitions given by this UNESCO recommendations of open science. All right. Okay, when we talk about open science, we shouldn't think that open science only limited to those basic and the fundamental or applied sciences. Basically, to the social science, yes, humanities, yes, it's covered the broad spectrum, right? And this FAIR principle has been mentioned by Prof. Ada just now, Dr. Fazida just now. So basically, the FAIR principle try to emphasize this data to be findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. Okay. Okay. Now, if you come to this open science aspect, okay, so how the UNESCO define this open science? They say, well, all the activities that we mentioned just now can be conducted through these 5 pillars here, where at first, definitely is the open access to all this scientific knowledge we're talking about, then to the open science infrastructure, okay, shared facilities can be accessed by the researchers, then open engagement, open communications, and this open dialogue. In other words, for the open engagements of societal actors, now we talk about is the citizen science. where not only scientific processes only involve the scientists, but also involve the public. So, example, if you look at the biodiversity aspect, right? We have a lot of hobbies for, let's say, example, orchids, or for plants, or even for fruits. All right, so those are not really the few scientists, but they are more on the citizens, the publics, right? Okay, so these are all the aspects of open science. Of course, if you want to know what are the benefits of why we want to make the open science, we always emphasize on this research, whether the research can be reproduced on these integrity issues and on the usage itself. But of course, there are also a lot of barriers, limitations when we come to this open science aspect, right? Like just now, the questions raised as well as I answered, not all the questions are related to technical, I'm afraid. All right, especially look at the number 3 here, lack of supportive culture, incentive, training. So basically, open science is not just about having a platform for us to dump the data in. It's about the change of the culture, how we conduct our science, right? Yeah. But however, having said that, we understand that in certain domain, open science is already well implemented. All right, like astronomy, definitely, seismology, because of no single country can collect all this, can plant all these seismometers around the world to collect all the data. So it should be a collective effort. All right, so in this UNESCO recommendations on open science, it highlighted a few things here. First, promoting a common understanding of open science, right? So you have to let people understand why we are embarked on this open science journey. Then, more important, you must have the enabling policy, okay, for this open science, or at least a guideline tell people what you should do and what you can do if you're interested in open science initiative. If you want to do it, you want to contribute your part, then cannot run away will be the open science infrastructures and services. Yes, we have to invest in this open science infrastructures and services. Then, of course, just the infrastructure itself without the personnel, the capacities to do it, that it doesn't make sense. That's why human capacities building will be the 4th points that emphasize here. All right. Then, of course, fostering the cultures, we come back to these cultures issues, right? And lastly, promote an innovative approach of open science, like how the entire research ecosystems like MOSP and the iConnect, how we can integrating all these good initiatives together, right? So now focus on this MOSP itself. So for MOSP, this initiative was launched by the ministers back in 2019, November 7. All right. So for this, the last 1.5 years journey, what we're trying to do is we try to perform this landscape studies, developing the guidelines. We try to train more data stewards through our capacity buildings and awareness. And also we are looking into the design of the MOSP infrastructures to support the entire initiative. So if you ask me, I will see the open science, the MOSP, as a feature here. Okay, on one end, we will have this national guidelines here, where it will tell us, okay, if the universities, the data owner, or even the researcher itself are the one who contribute the data, so what is the role they should play and what are the guidance to them or the advices to them. Then, of course, at the same time, this capacity building and awareness wing will train the data stewards to support the entire initiative. And lastly, only we come to the infrastructure. Look at the wings of these widgets. If one of the wings is not there, means it's not going to make sense. Example, if let's say MOSP today, we're just talking about the infrastructure itself. Let's focus on build the platform. But without the proper guidelines, many researchers, they are interested, but they may not be able to understand how they can start, right? Then for the, if you only have the infrastructure and the guideline, without the capacities building programs, the researchers themselves, they are not aware, we don't have enough data stewards to serve, then this MOSP cannot spin as well. All right. If you ask about the data stewards, Baron Mons from the co-data always recommend the right ratio maybe is 1 data stewards to serve 20 data contributors. So it means if you have 20 researchers that producing data in the experiment, you should have about 1 data steward to serve them. So roughly, this is some of the ideas of the MOSP. All right. Of course, the benefit, the values of this MOSP, we can get more of this information from our website in ASM. All right. And we have been actively.
Sorry, I tell you, you have about 1 or 2 minutes to wrap up.
All right, let me wrap it up. Okay. Okay. So a lot of the activities what we are doing at the moment, and the activities for these three branch district activities has been described. And I will use this 1 minute to do two things. First of all, I want to emphasize on the entire MOSP architecture. This is to answer the questions. People, most of us will think that MOSP is just about a platform, a repository where the whole world can deposit the data. Maybe not the whole world, the whole Malaysian researchers, they will deposit the data. But in fact, MOSP is not. All right. All the research data is still with the data owner themselves. Example, in the pilot study, we have 5 RUs involved here. So all 5 RUs, they should host their own research repository. So the data control, the data ownership is still with the data owners. Okay, so what MOSP try to do is discovery services that harvest all this metadata, all right, and provide a single interface for us to, or for the publics to browse what are the data available in Malaysia. So means the MOSP platform is trying to harvest all this information. Okay, so we have a timeline starting from the launching itself. Now, the guidelines has been developed. The capacity buildings is ongoing. We have trained some data students in all the universities. If you, there are some figures that we have trained for all the RUs, and also the target how many more we want to train. All right. Okay. The last message that I want to just in case you lost in my very fast presentation just now, remember these 3 things. Okay. So first of all, open science is not forcing you to open your data. We're talking about making your data fair. So it's about findable, accessible under well-defined conditions. So if your institutions, you have the research data that you want to, that you think is ready for sharing, okay, we're only asking for the metadata to be deposited or to be made accessible so that we harness the metadata to the data itself. But the raw data is still with your own control. So if you think that this data is belongs to the public domain, yes, you can make it openly accessible from your website. If not, then the data it can still go through your own institution's defined policy. Like if this is about the patient's record, if you want to make use of this piece of data, perhaps you have to go through another ethical approval possible, or open up for more chances, more opportunities to have collaboration. Okay, and then the second point is MOSP is not a computer platform. It's a human platform that we try to promote this open science in Malaysia, but at the same time, yes, it will be a computer platform that allow us to connect and then to harvest more data set produced by the Malaysians, and then also to connect to the rest repositories in the world. And the last one, even though in this pilot study, the 5 RUs we keep on mentioning since day one, but for the entire MOSP, it is not only limited to the 5 RUs institution repository. Just we selected the 5 RUs in the pilot studies because of all the research university is already having a lot of research data to start with. So the MOSP will expand to more than beyond the 5 RUs to other universities, including the public and the private university and all the research institutions. With that, I thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chisai. It was a great presentation. I believe that many of us have now know what the real meaning of open science, in the sense that, open science is not open data, but it's about data sharing of fair data under well-defined conditions. So moving on to our next presentation, we have Dr. Suhaimi Nafis, who is a former professor from UPM. Dr. Suhaimi actually served as a Director Infocom Development Center and Deputy Director, Private Grant Division of Research Management Center. He also actively involved in the Asia Pacific Advanced Network Organization and presently is a member of the APAN Board of Directors. He also a co-founder for Malaysia Research and Education Network, MyRAND, the Sipulan Malaysian Access Management, and also co-found the Asia Open Access Initiative. So currently, Dr. Suhaimi also is being appointed by UPM under the Amal Putra Volunteer Program, and recently be appointed by the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Industry as the permanent member of National Agriculture Advisory Council from 2020 to 2021. He also established an ICT startup company called as Birunisoft, focusing on systems related to research and education, with emphasis on greater and trustworthy collaboration among researchers using Sipulan Federated Single Sign-On, and also on research data management and research repository system with close collaboration with Research Center for Open Science and Data Platform of National Institute of Informatics, Japan. So with that, please, Dr. Sifulan, the floor is yours.
Okay, sorry, I unmute. Okay, now, thank you very much, Dr. Nurzatil and everybody. Thank you for the first two presenters, and thanks especially to Prof. Nur Sada and Chu for giving me all this information. I'm going to try and move away a little bit about the way in which we actually do collaboration. So the title is actually Bridging the Gap in Research Ecosystem through Sifulan. So basically, I'm going to start by talking about identity vetting. So everybody knows about local Malaysian IC. Everybody also have international passport, and also at the end of the day, the access control on the visa policy. So basically, what we have is actually to be able to have our identity being vetted at international level and subject to the visa policy of someone else, some other countries, you are able to be authorized to access. So from authentication into authorization, this is what we are pursuing in terms of identity vetting. So basically, actually, there are many. I just gonna blast through this. Authentication and single sign-on. Many organizations in Malaysia, especially those that are in the public university that I know of, and also in private university, always have the ability to access the intranet as well as the extranet using perhaps maybe a multiple ID and password. So, but what we are hoping here is actually to have all the single sign-on, whereby I think it's being practiced by many universities now, to have a single ID for both inside university as well as accessing the external or internet for other purposes like accessing the database, accessing the journals, and so on, using a single ID and password. So this is what single sign-on is all about. So basically, I wish to actually alert you on the need for you to actually take care of your password. So if you look at this bottom here, https://ihavebeenpwned.com. So if you can take a photograph, please check your password to see whether your password has been compromised. So this is the risk of us, being lax in terms of protecting your ID and password credential. So in terms of the technologies that is being utilized by many universities and organizations in Malaysia, so I just want to actually give you this idea. There are so many different platforms for the identity management and single sign-on. I don't want to dwell into that. So the ability for the identity management as well as what should be done is actually the maintenance of the privacy, where users can be identified locally with their home institution and being allowed to access any number of research resources while signing only once. So basically, what we need to do in terms of the ability in assessing, as has been mentioned previously, that the need for us to be paying particular attention to privacy and security of your data, is to create layers of federation from various groups and consortia. So in a research ecosystem, this is very important, where collaboration must be facilitated, but at the same time, the privacy is to be preserved the data that is not supposed to be open will not be open, and only certain people with various what they call it, access control or access level policy be able to actually access. I don't want to dwell into that this per se. I just want to move on as to how internationally, because we are talking about local as well as international collaboration, the International Federated SSO Trust Framework has actually formed what we call as the policy and guideline that will enable the ability to collaborate and to be able to share the entity metadata, that means the ID and password, with the minimum amount of information being shared. And this whole entire thing worldwide is being actually managed and confirmed by assigned metadata. So this is something in which what we strive to actually move forward, whereby your local ID can be used and be able to access, subject to the approval of the data owner, any resources worldwide from other countries. So this actually framework is actually being governed by what they term as EduGain, which is actually under the Research and Education Federation. And if you notice here, as we prepared this slide, I'm sure there will be more, about 20,619 entities, meaning to say both the universities, the research organization, as well as resource service providers, has been registered under EduGain with 74 federations, which means that more, if you look at the countries in red, those are the countries that have the federation already in place. And if you look at that green arrow here, Malaysia is the one already included in EduGain. So what we have is actually we're pretty much at par with the rest of the world. Southeast Asia is Malaysia and Singapore that is already part of the EduGain Interfederation. So talking about Sifulan, this is what it's all about. Sifulan has been operational since 2014 and has been accepted as the 57th member of EduGain since 2018. The acceptance of Sifulan has been a major milestone in identity and access management community in Malaysia, where if the members of Sifulan are not only able to access services using its own service providers, but also from other countries via the Interfederation. So, like I said, the access and the ability to access to information and resources worldwide can be facilitated as we speak now. So let me just give you briefly about the research data management. I know Chu mentioned that Malaysian Open Science Platform is actually the people and the platform. So what we have is actually the platform that allows the researchers to manage their research data without having to re-upload all their research data. The RDM or research data management will be able to seamlessly integrate into the research life cycle. This is very important, where all data that are generated as has been done in the research activities, the daily research activities, will be immediately uploaded into the system. So this can be done at various institutions with various repositories, and this can actually be aggregated nationally later on. So Sifulan RDM is actually the exact same system that are currently being used by researchers in Japan. So you can snap the photo of this slide, and then you can search by yourself. So Sifulan RDM in itself, we do actually have a demo, and user can log in using your home credential if they are already part of, but if they are not, then they would be able to get access. You can just email us for the demo account. So this is actually what we see, or what you can see under the rdm.sifulan.my, whereby if you notice here, the Sifulan Research Data Management will always have the institutional login for you to actually select which organization you are from. And then after that, you would be able to save, suppose, for example, I give you this example, under the University Sultan Zainal Abidin, although I'm from UPM, I can access to that, but I'll just choose University Sultan Zainal Abidin as the one of the potential, what they call it, the user, because they have already been part of Sifulan, full-fledged Sifulan member. So the moment you click the Sifulan select and select University Sultan Zainal Abidin, you will be actually redirected to UNISA, what they call it, login portal. And you will need to actually log in with your credential, user ID, and password within the campus of UNISA. Although you are maybe somewhere in Timbuktu, you will still be needed to be authenticated in campus of UNISA. And then the moment you put your ID and password, then immediately you will be actually accepted, and you can actually just enter Sifulan Research Data Management, and you can start your project, and you can actually upload your data. And there are many things that can be linked, whereby the storage is actually can be linked even to your own Gmail account, the G Drive, or for that matter, if you use OneDrive or that Dropbox and so on. So that can be facilitated, and this can actually be being put and installed, and we have already installed in UPM the one instance where UPM can actually start using. But of course, they need the approval from the top management before they need to use, before the researchers in UPM can use. We also have a Emcee being one of the two places where we install locally. But this is actually the one that we install in our own server in the cloud. And you are all welcome to actually try it and do a test drive. So
thank you. Sorry.
Yes, I'm done. I know.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I'm good in the keeping of time. So in conclusion, Sifulan, as the name as it says, ensures the shared data is safe and protected by allowing only identity vetted rightful people to have access to the resources, which means that anyone wishing to have access will need to be first identity vetted. And this is a way of saying, Assalamualaikum, saya Suhaimi Napis daripada UPM, saya nak masuk, boleh saya masuk. So it is a courtesy. And this is where, to me, being the most important, the ability for you to tell who you are and your intent to access, rather than doing it anonymously. So that is why Sifulan, there shall be no Sifulan bin Sifulan access to data as well as resources from now on, inshallah. So Sifulan also enables multilateral, multi-platform research and data sharing at both national and international level. And as I always say, Sifulan is the solution for access management of research data management platform. And I put in red there, Sifulan is the missing link in the research ecosystem, because we are talking about bridging. So this is actually the bridge. So just to have a small note there, I would like to mention again, Sifulan RDM demo site is ready. So for those who wish to actually test drive the platform, you can do so. Send me an email for a demo account, and perhaps also, while you are at it, this Sifulan RDM may be considered to be the model for the national platform. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Soimi, for the great presentation. For those who might want to contact Dr. Soimi, maybe you can just email ASM MSP Secretariat to get his contact email. Thanks again for the Sifulan presentation, using the single sign-on approach, which is very interesting in a way to ensure the safety of the data. So let's move on to the final presentation for today from Encik Yasir Muhammad Arifin. Encik Yasir currently is working as the Assistant Secretary at the Division of Biodiversity Management, Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources, KETSA. Prior to this, he worked as an IT officer at the Forest Research Institute of Malaysia, FRAME. He is also the system developer for Malaysia Biodiversity Information System, MyBIS, which is going to present today. And MyBIS is a one-stop repository for biodiversity information in Malaysia. So with that, Encik Yasir, the floor is yours.
Terima kasih Dr. Moderator. Izinkan saya untuk present dalam bahasa Melayu. Tapi boleh faham the slide dalam bahasa Inggeris lah. Okay. Malaysia Biodiversity Information System merupakan pekalan data biodiversiti kebangsaan yang terletak di bawah Kementerian Tenaga dan Sumber Asli. Tujuan utama kita membangunkan sistem ini adalah kita melihat kepada permasalahan yang muncul apabila data-data berkaitan dengan biodiversiti ini berada di merata-rata agensi seperti di Pilitan, FRAMES, even di universiti sendiri. Dan data tersebut tidak dapat disentraliskan untuk tujuan analisis dan juga perkongsian. Jadi kita buatkan satu data yang centralized yang kita panggil sebagai Malaysia Biodiversity Information System. Okay. Ini merupakan punca kuasa kepada mengapa negara perlunya satu sistem centralized berkaitan dengan biodiversity lah, di mana Malaysia telah memeterai perjanjian dengan CBD, di mana semua negara yang terlibat di bawah CBD perlu mewujudkan satu sistem yang dipanggil Clearing House Mechanism, CHM, yang tujuan dia adalah untuk repository maklumat biodiversity dan perkongsian maklumat lah antara negara-negara yang terlibat dan juga peringkat antarabangsa dan peringkat kebangsaan sendiri. So untuk negara Malaysia, focal point-nya berada di bawah Kementerian Tenaga dan Sumber Asli, iaitu di bawah bahagian pengurusan biodiversity. So ini punca kuasa kedua mengapa kita perlunya ada satu pekalan data biodiversity yang centralized lah, di mana di bawah National Policy on Biological Diversity NPBD 2016-2025 menyebut dalam goal 5 target 16 bahawa kita memerlukan satu sistem untuk mengumpul semua maklumat berkaitan biodiversity lah. Jadi daripada national policy inilah maka tumbuhnya satu pekalan data sebagai centralized kepada maklumat tersebut lah. Dan maklumat ini kita guna pakai untuk pelaporan ke peringkat antarabangsa lah, di bawah National Report to Convention on Biological Diversity. Selain itu, punca kuasa kedua adalah di bawah Akta 795, iaitu Akta Access to Biological Resource and Benefit Sharing Act 2017, di mana dalam Section 32 menyebut perlunya untuk establish dan maintain a clearing house mechanism. Istilah yang digunakan pakai sama juga di peringkat CBD, iaitu CHM. Jadi dengan termaterainya akta ni, maka wujudlah Malaysia Access and Benefit Sharing Clearing House Mechanism di bawah MyBIS. Yang tuan-puan boleh akses melalui laman web iaitu www.myabs.gov.my, di mana di bawah akta tersebut juga menyebut berkaitan dengan information, apa-apa saja maklumat ataupun information data berkaitan dengan biodiversity, termasuklah biological resources, genetic resources Traditional knowledge sama ada secara fizikal atau bukan fizikal perlulah direkodkan di bawah akta ini. Selain itu, punca kuasa seterusnya adalah daripada National Action Plan on Invasive Alien Species, juga menyebutkan perlunya maklumat berkaitan dengan IAS disentraliskan di bawah satu pekalan data. Dan Jawatan Kuasa Sekretariat IAS telah memutuskan untuk menjadikan MyPeace sebagai pekalan data bagi IAS di bawah National Clearinghouse Mechanism, di bawah goal 1, target 1 dan aktiviti 1. Okay. So saya nak perjelaskan sikit di bawah CBD. Sebenarnya ada 3 clearinghouse yang kementerian perlu wujudkan, kerajaan Malaysia perlu wujudkan, iaitu pertama National Biodiversity Clearinghouse yang kita kenali sebagai MyPeace, iaitu di bawah Acih Biodiversity Target. Yang kedua, Access and Benefit Sharing Clearinghouse yang sebut tadi, MyBS, iaitu di bawah Nagoya Protocol. Yang ketiga, Biosafety Clearinghouse, iaitu Biosafety CH, di bawah Cartagena Protocol. Dan juga satu lagi berkaitan dengan Emcee lah, Like-Minded Mega-Diverse Country, sistem untuk pemantauan pelaporan dalam negara-negara di bawah Like-Minded Mega-Diverse. Okay. Untuk pengetahuan tuan-puan, sistem clearinghouse 1 dan 2 itu berada di bawah satu arkitektur yang sama, iaitu di bawah MyPeace. Untuk yang nombor 3 berada di bawah Jabatan Biokeselamatan di bawah KASA. Okay. Dan juga LLMC berada di bawah MyPeace juga. So ini sedikit objektif berkaitan dengan pekalan data biodiversiti kebangsaan. Yang pertama, tujuan dia adalah untuk kita mengumpulkan sebanyak mungkin maklumat berkaitan biodiversiti di Malaysia lah, daripada berbagai sumber, termasuklah daripada penyelidikan, daripada research, daripada sumber-sumber lain yang diterbitkan. Yang kedua adalah untuk kita memberi akses kepada maklumat tersebut lah. Kita nak pastikan maklumat itu dapat diakses, maklumatnya disentraliskan, dan juga kita juga bagi manfaat maklumat tersebut kepada stakeholder yang terlibat. Yang ketiga, kita nak wujudkan public awareness lah. So bila kita dah mengumpulkan semua maklumat ni, kita mestilah mengeluarkan hasil dia melalui kesedaran kepada masyarakat umum lah berkaitan kepentingan memelihara biodiversiti. Dan yang keempat, yang pentingnya adalah kita menyediakan pelaporan bagi tujuan untuk policy maker dalam menetapkan dasar dan polisi. Okay. So ini sikit pencapaian yang kita perolehi sepanjang kita membangunkan pekalan data biodiversiti kebangsaan ni lah. Yang pertama, pada tahun 2016 kita memenangi Gold Award di Mexico di bawah Clearinghouse Mechanism, dalam New Clearinghouse Mechanism lah, di mana 190 lebih negara bertanding dan kita mendapat Gold Award, mendapat pengiktirafan pada masa itu lah. Kemudian tahun 2018 kita dapat Certificate of Achievement kerana mengekalkan kualiti pekalan data biodiversiti kebangsaan kita lah berturut-turut, di mana untuk pengetahuan tuan-puan hanya 4 negara saja yang menerima Certificate of Achievement tersebut lah. Jadi Malaysia merupakan negara yang menerima, iaitu yang mengekalkan kualiti. Kita terima pada tahun 2018 di Egypt. Dan untuk tahun lepas kita baru saja menerima pengiktirafan di peringkat kebangsaan, iaitu dalam Malaysia Book of Record. MyPeace merupakan pekalan data yang terbesar yang menyimpan maklumat berkaitan biodiversiti. Okay, sikit perkembangan terkini lah berkaitan pekalan data. Bila kita sebut pekalan data, mesti kita nak tahu sikit statistik apa yang ada dalam sistem tersebut lah. Okay, pekalan data ini menyimpan maklumat spesies. Kita telah merekodkan lebih daripada 47,000 spesies flora dan fauna yang terdapat di Malaysia ni lah. Dan jumlah ini sentiasa meningkat setiap hari, kita daftarkan, termasuklah daripada yang bersifat native atau bukan native, kerana ia disebut di dalam akta. Kemudian kita merekodkan lebih daripada 128,000 maklumat spesimen yang berada di Malaysia setakat ini. Di mana untuk pengetahuan tuan-puan, pada tahun 2008 satu kajian menyebutkan bahawa Malaysia memiliki lebih daripada 3 juta spesimen. Spesimen ini adalah bahan yang rujukan saintis yang kering yang disimpankan di dalam laboratory lah. Jadi kita merekodkan maklumat tersebut. Setakat ini kita hanya baru dapat merekodkan 128,000. Kemudian kita mendigitalkan maklumat spesimen tersebut sebanyak 12,700 ya, lebih daripada 12,000 rekod digital spesimen yang kita digitalkan supaya semua pusat koleksi ini memiliki dua aset, iaitu secara fizikal dan secara virtual. Yang seterusnya, kita memiliki 11,000 foto gambar berkaitan dengan flora fauna yang berada di Malaysia. Sebab kita lihat minat pada masyarakat umum bila kita bercerita tentang sains atau lebih spesifik kepada biologi, mereka lebih suka melihat benda tersebut lah. Sebagai contoh, kalau tuan-puan lihat pada gambar burung tersebut, kita jarang melihat gambar-gambar yang unik, sebenarnya spesiesnya berada di Malaysia. Jadi kalau kita dapat tunjukkan dalam bentuk foto, ia akan memberikan minat kepada masyarakat umum. MyBiz juga merupakan directory pakar berkaitan biodiversity lah, di mana kita dah merekodkan lebih daripada 400 pakar yang berada di Malaysia. Jadi semua pakar ni adalah yang terlibat dalam menyumbang data-data dalam data MyBiz lah. Dan kita dah merekodkan lebih daripada 4,000 rujukan reference ya. Untuk pengetahuan tuan-puan, semua data-data yang ada dalam MyBiz perlu memiliki reference ya. Perlu ada sumber rujukan dia, perlu dia ada citation dia sendirilah, sama ada dalam bentuk jurnal, penerbitan ataupun diterbitkan di mana-mana. Dan MyBiz merupakan pekan data kepada protected area lah. Di mana kita dah merekodkan lebih daripada 400 kawasan perlindungan di Malaysia ya. Dan data ni kita submit ke World Database on Protected Area, WDPA, sebagai data rasmi kerajaan ya. Untuk pengetahuan, kita memiliki 55% kawasan hutan di Malaysia. Okay. Bendera di bawah tu menunjukkan bahawa negara-negara yang melawati atau melihat pada data-data kita lah. Ya. Kalau kita tengok yang pada atas tu adalah negara serantau kita, iaitu seperti Indonesia, Thailand, Singapura, Jepun, Filipina. Dan yang negara bawah tu yang jauh sikit daripada serantau kita, contoh China, India, UK, Australia dan US lah. Okay, sedikit berkaitan dengan pengalaman data. Okay, spesies profile ini merupakan tulang belakang kepada kita punya pengalaman data lah. Di mana kalau kita sebut dia berkaitan dengan sistem ataupun database, dia mesti ada backbone dia. Mesti ada rangka asas dia yang mengembangkan data tersebut lah. Jadi kalau sistem kepada biodiversity, dia mestilah merujuk kepada spesies lah. Jadi daripada data spesies tu kita kembangkan kepada maklumat-maklumat lain yang boleh diakses. Jadi kat sini kita ada menyediakan 18 maklumat yang boleh diakses dan digunakan pakai oleh publik. Termasuklah dalam maklumat berkaitan saintifik dan bukan saintifik seperti taksonomi, common names, resident, gambar, habit, relationship, structure, UCN status dan sebagainya. Selain itu, ini merupakan modul-modul yang utama juga, iaitu modul specimen seperti yang saya cakap tadi, di mana di bawah pekalan data MyBiz ni kita ada satu program di mana kita panggil sebagai program inventory specimen kebangsaan lah, yang melibatkan 14 agensi, di mana kita telah merekodkan lebih daripada 22 pusat koleksi spesimen di Malaysia. Untuk pengetahuan, semua pusat koleksi yang terlibat ini secara langsung telah merekodkan data-data spesimennya di dalam pengalaman data kita lah. Jadi kalau tuan-puan ingin mencari spesimen yang berkaitan dengan flora dan fauna, hanya perlu layari je MyBiz dan kita akan tunjukkan di mana lokasi spesimen tersebut berada.
Salam Cik Asih.
Ya.
Cik Asih ada dalam 1 atau 2 minit
Okay.
untuk wrap up. Terima kasih.
Okay. Terima kasih. Ini berkaitan dengan data protected area yang saya cakap tadi lah, di mana kita melaporkan kepada WDPA. Jadi semua maklumat ini kita kumpulkan dan kita analisis dan kita laporkan di tingkat antarabangsa lah. So selain itu kita merupakan directory pakar di mana kita dah merekodkan 400 pakar lah. So ini adalah produk-produk yang dapat kita wujudkan bila kita ada data yang besar seperti inilah ya. Antaranya iaitu MyBiz API dan MyBiz SSN ya. Di mana kita menyediakan API kepada sistem-sistem yang ada di peringkat agensi untuk pakai data-data kita. Jadi bermaksudnya tuan-puan tak perlu membangunkan pekalan data biodiversity yang lain. Tuan-puan hanya boleh menggunakan data centralized kita ni untuk menarik maklumat tersebut dan appear dalam sistem tuan-puan dah menggunakan API kita sendirilah. Di mana kita ada unique identifier seperti kad penalan kepada spesies-spesies tersebut. Hanya menggunakan nama kad penalan saja kita boleh tarik semua maklumat-maklumat yang berkaitan lah. Dan juga sistem kita juga menyediakan juga perkongsian melalui teknologi yang dipanggil Darwin Core lah, di mana kalau kita sebut data biodiversity, dia mesti menggunakan standard Darwin Core tersebut lah. Selain itu kita juga menghasilkan MyBeast QR dan MyBeast Bot, di mana QR ni boleh diguna pakai oleh penyelidik untuk dia masukkan dalam penerbitan dia ya, dalam specimen tagging dan sebagainya lah. Dan juga kalau tuan-puan tengok contohnya seperti di Putrajaya Botanical ya, menggunakan QR code kita ya pada pokok-pokok yang berada di taman tersebut. Jadi kalau tuan-puan pergi ke senarai taman-taman ini, tuan-puan boleh menggunakan QR code MyBeast lah. Yang untuk bot pula kita mengintegratekan data kita dalam chatting punya apps mobile ya, yang kita dah berjaya usahakan di dalam Telegram, di mana tuan-puan boleh search maklumat berkaitan dengan flora fauna dalam Telegram ya, tanpa membuka sistem kita, hanya search dalam Telegram, tuan-puan boleh dapat maklumat berkaitan dengan spesies flora fauna di Malaysia. Okay. So hasil selain itu juga kita telah menerbitkan beberapa buku lah, hasil data-data yang kita kumpulkan kerjasama dengan agensi, beberapa buku yang kita telah berjaya terbitkan, dan buku-buku semua ni kita integratekan juga dengan teknologi yang kita telah ada dalam peralatan tersebut, di mana maklumat-maklumat SSN, QR code kita integratekan dalam ini. Jadi selain daripada mereka dapat melihat dalam buku, mereka juga boleh akses pada sistem kita melalui QR code. Dan buku ni boleh didapati di perpustakaan awam dan sekolah-sekolah yang kita edarkan. Ini merupakan kerjasama yang kita dah buat yang melibatkan beberapa modul dalam pengkongsian data tersebut lah. So ini program SEPA yang kita laksanakan, iaitu Communication, Education and Public Awareness, memberi kesedaran kepada publik berkaitan dengan kepentingan pengembangan biodiversity, di mana kita menghadiri seminar, kita beri talk ya, kita ke sekolah-sekolah ya, untuk memberitahu kesedaran dan penggunaan sistem kita lah. So ini sikit future development kepada pekalan data MyBeast, di mana kita akan membangunkan taxon data information sheet, di mana tujuan dia adalah untuk kita memberi status red list kepada semua spesies di Malaysia ya. Kalau tuan-puan tengok sebelum ni, status red list hanya diberikan kepada spesies-spesies yang dijaga oleh agensi sahaja, seperti mammals ya, fish sahaja. Tapi status yang selain itu seperti siput, serangga, siapa yang memberi status red list ni? Jadi kita harap dengan adanya satu sistem centralized ni, jadi semua orang boleh menyumbang data dan kita boleh memuat nilai kepada status tersebut lah. Yang kedua adalah kita akan melibatkan citizen science, di mana publik yang akan menyumbang data kepada saintifik, di mana kalau kita mengharapkan penyelidik sahaja untuk berada di kawasan kajian, tidak mungkin ya. Kita mengharapkan orang yang berada di kawasan tersebut yang menyumbang data ya. Dan yang ketiga, kita ingin mewujudkan spesimen digital image, di mana kita akan digitalkan semua spesimen yang ada di Malaysia ni, yang kita targetkan dalam 3 juta spesimen yang boleh diakses secara digital. Okay. So sekian saja untuk pembentangan saya berkaitan dengan MyBeast lah, pengenalan berkaitan. Terima kasih.
Okay, thank you very much Encik Yasir for the great presentation about MyBeast. Indeed, MyBeast is a very important initiative towards digitization efforts of the biodiversity research in Malaysia. Okay, let's move on to the next session. We have about 20 minutes left actually for Q&A. There are many questions posted on the Q&A panels. Some of them actually have been answered by our panelists. And of course, I invite all the panelists to also answer questions posted by our participants. Okay. Maybe the first question I would like to throw to Dr. Liu Chi-Sun. Okay, so I saw a lot of discussions about a fair principle, the pain of getting data becomes fair in the concept of open science. And there are also questions about how to ensure research data is reliable and confidentiality issues. So I believe all these elements are related to a fair principle. Maybe you can elaborate more on this, Dr. Liu?
Yeah, thank you, Zatil. Yes, actually I'm busy typing, answering all these questions, but proof that I'm doing very slowly, so I'm sorry about that. I think I'll take this opportunity to answer some of these questions here. So the first question, I think related to what Prof. Raymond asked, right, is regarding the aspect of the data, how we prove the qualities and also the varieties of the data. Okay, I have to say, what open science what we are embarking on for this open science is not like coming a single systems that become the silver bullet, the magical systems where we just push our whatever data into it and then it will get automatically sorted out and then arranged and also verified. I'm afraid not. If there's a such system, please do let me know, because as a chair for the infrastructures committee, if there's such as cool technologies that I'm happy to adopt it for MOSP. MOSP is more on the entire process. So what we are trying to do over here is I wouldn't say to teach or to educate, but it's more like to share with the researchers on the importance of data management and importance of data curation aspect. And of course, at the end, it's make the data available and share. So in this whole process, we only can give some guidelines to the researchers on what they need to do when they come to the end of the projects, or even throughout the entire process, if they have any interesting data set that may be useful or by others researchers or others research, how they should properly curate it and make it accessible. But of course, by doing that, we also need to provide a platform, the institution's repository, for the researchers to upload their data set. If you look at the very ideal situations, I remember it's shared by the NTU, the universities, National Nanyang Technology Universities from Singapore, where they, the moment the instruments capture the data will be automatically deposited into the repository. Wow, that's cool, right? So if data has been deposited, then what we want to do next, of course, we want to curate it and then putting the right metadata to describe this process, to describe this particular data, so that the data, the meanings and also the interpretations of data is there, then the data should be made available. So the answers to how we validate the data, I'm afraid we only can have the good practices and relies on the data stewards that we train in each institutions to play this, can I say QA, QC's role, the quality assurance and the quality control role for the data validity, right? So that is for one aspect. Zadia, what is the other part of the question you asked us now?
One is about confidentiality. The second part is about
confidentiality. Okay, yeah. This is related to another question that I'm not halfway typing. Another participant asked this question. Confidentiality example, we always use example is the medical data set, right? The patient's record set. So if these are the patient's records, does it make sense that we just open the patient? Sorry, or is it a way we can just get the patient data and then put it on the web? The answer is no. No, not in the if you follow the GDPR in the Europe, or not even in Malaysia, you follow the PDPA. The answer is no, obviously. But actually, we are not asking the researchers to upload whatever data set they have collected on the internet. Example, if you have interesting studies about the let's say examples now, let's say for this COVID patient, if someone is conducting these studies to collect all these data all throughout the entire duration, starting from last year, January until now. So there are substantial data for us to study, right? This data set, of course, if including the patient's identifiers, everything, it shouldn't be there, make it appropriate at all. But if we're going through this anonymization process, like removing all this important data, or going through some analysis process to derive important information or some insight from this data set, and those findings can be made available. Or if those data set, example, if let's say today we have spent the taxpayers' monies to collect a huge data set, let's say we spend about millions to conduct all these survey studies, interviews, and with all the different patients. So this data set is crucial and is, in fact, the Ministry MOH also is collecting such information. So if this data set is available, so we are not asking to get the whole data set, deposit in your institution repository and make it accessible through MOSP. What you can do is you're actually publishing the metadata describing what data set you are holding. So if the users, they are interested in a particular data set for this particular studies, what they can do is they always, if you click on the repository, the link, it will go to the institution's repository. Then you can have your own mechanisms to handle this process. Like if this is a medical data set, okay, then you should maybe fill out a proposal that can submit it to this panel. So the ethics committees will see whether the site usage for this data has been collected and has been made available is allowable or not, then it can continue the whole process. Just like the every years there are different data set the Ministry of Health is collecting. So if you want to access those data set, you can contact the MOH directly. Of course, they will go through like ethical approval. So that is the procedure. So if you ask me, I would say those data can be just review confidential data and then on the internet. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So remember, open science not about open all your data, but it's about make your data fair data. Okay, open under a well-defined condition. Yep, that's for me.
Excellent point, Dr. Liu Chisan. Maybe we can move on to the next question. I saw a question about from Dr. Ibrahim Abu Ahmad. Will the use of blockchain technology avoid our privacy being compromised? And Dr. Suhaimi might want to comment further on that, Dr. Suhaimi. Sorry, Doctor, you are on mute. Dr. Suhaimi, you're on mute.
Yes. Wow, that is a tough question. Yes, I think, you know, privacy, data privacy, and so on, blockchain can be used, you know, but how to use it will depend on which level. You know, Chisan already mentioned about anonymizing. That is one of the possibility of, you know, making the data anonymized, you know, removing all the what they call that, the privacy issue, so that it will be just a data that do not have any privacy concern or privacy data that may compromise our privacy. But blockchain, yes, because I think many platform has used, you know, blockchain for protecting their data. But it's actually more or less, it's like this. Remember, we mentioned, it was mentioned about as open as possible and as close as necessary. Now, this is what I call a paradox of disclosure. You know, you reveal enough so that people will be interested, but not revealing so much that people become disinterested. So there is a balance, and there is a need for you to actually make a conscious decision as to what you can actually put in public or what you can open and what you need to actually reserve. So as open as possible, as close as necessary for open science is very important, and especially when it involves data privacy or whatever, you know, anonymizing is one of them, blockchain is another. But if you actually prevent any access, then it will be useless, because, you know, even you know, if the metadata is not being revealed, you will not be able, you know, someone won't be able to find, the machine won't be able to find the data. So that is the need for you to strike a balance and mitigate rather than actually completely isolate whatever the data that you have. I think that's my take on that.
Excellent point there, Dr. Suhaimi. Maybe another question for you. There's a question from Simon. Simon actually is our good partner from Codata. Thanks, Simon, for joining. What is the underlying software being used by Sifulan? I saw you answer it. Maybe you want to elaborate further on that.
Well, actually, Sifulan adopt the security assertion markup language, which is actually the protocol that is used by Edugain. So we comply to Edugain. Remember, we are the 57th member of Edugain. We actually subscribe to all the rules and regulation and the technical rules and regulation and the technical, what they call that, guideline as prescribed by Edugain, because this will ensure whatever that we do, you know, there are 74, at least 74 federations around the world. They are using the same metadata schema, the same protocol, the same way of doing things. That is why there is a need for you to be graduated as a member of Edugain. That means you have graduated to comply with all those technical regulations. So to answer the question straight away is SAML, but there is a bridge. If I can go further, OIDC, which is Open ID Connect, there is a bridge that is actually now underway. But the general Edugain, what they call notion is that they will stick to SAML for now. They will stick SAML for now because that is the most, how should I say, that is the most used and mature. Okay, so that I think we can take it offline. Simon, hello. We met in Beijing.
old friends came together again during the forum,
Yes.
yeah? Okay, thanks, Dr. Saimi. I have a question actually. Perhaps Encik Yasir can answer this question. This question is actually from Tirumeni Subramaniam. Okay. Are there any initiatives at Mampu or government agencies to promote digital literacy among the public? Since Mampu representative, unfortunately, she needs to leave early. Maybe Encik Yasir can share what are the initiatives at CATSA to promote digital literacy, perhaps about MyBiz to the public. Encik Yasir?
Untuk public, kebanyakannya kita terlibat dalam program SEPA, iaitu Communication, Education and Public Awareness. Tujuan dia bagi kita mewujudkan kesedaran lah kepada publik menggunakan data-data biodiversity ni lah. Jadi kita tujuan utama SEPA ni adalah untuk mewujudkan awareness lah, yang kita pergi kepada peringkat sekolah sehingga ke universiti dan juga masyarakat umum secara umum.
All right, thank you very much, Yasir. I have a question, but I guess I can open this to all panelists to answer. It's about from Dr. Ibrahim. Can you elaborate on evidence-led policy to make data as key strategic asset? This is a very open-ended question. I believe that our panelists will view it differently. So please, anyone. Dr. Soimi or Dr. Lichisan?
What was the question again? I'm sorry, I missed out. I was typing something. What was the question again, please?
Can you elaborate on, so data as a key strategic asset. So how do we turn it to asset? Okay, and maybe following from that is elaborate on the evidence-led policy to make data as key strategic asset.
Wow. Okay. Actually, let's put it this way, big data is all about reducing the data into something that is meaningful. So it depends on what data. If it is a biodiversity data, if it is important that you need to know the species name and so on and the habitat, you could actually use that as a data that can actually mitigate the ecological preservation and so on and so forth. Okay, that is on ecology. For things like medical, also, it can be considered as an asset from the perspective of vaccine development. Okay, vaccine development. You will have, I don't know, whatever Malaysian variant, heaven forbid, Malaysian variant of COVID-19. That may be useful for, in fact, if Malaysia wishes to actually explore the vaccine, they call it development of Malaysian strain. So that has become, something that can be, in a way, can be commercialized for future use. So you have biodiversity that can be commercialized and reused. Even as simple as edutainment is an asset for you to do. You can do, how birds flying and how the flamingos from Zoo Negara actually residing somewhere in Kelang. By having this kind of migratory, you can do a nice film. You can do a nice mirror of Banting seafair, the seaside where there is a lot of this migratory bird. So that is an asset. If I hope it answers. Maybe Chisan, cerita sikit lagi.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if you ask me the data as a key asset, I think we are now emphasizing more on the throughout, I would say for the past, but when we do the research, normally the data is only the side product. What we are more interested is the publications, right? Publications, that's why in the bioinformatics domain, they will emphasize that whatever data set you use in the publication, that you make it available, you upload it somewhere. But that is what I learned from data as well. So they say you should see the other way around. So in the future, it's actually I publish my data set, and I just have the papers as a site or attachments to describe what this particular data set. So if you look at today's experiment, especially when it comes to this data intensive growth, where the data itself is no more just a side product, but it's treated as a first-class citizens in a scientific experiment. Means that we treat it as an asset, that we have the proper management of our asset, right? So same thing for the data set. So the data that we collected, Do we have a proper mechanisms to organize them? Do we have the know-how to further curate them, to store them, to preserve the longevities of the data itself? So all these are the concerns if we treat the data as an asset, right? And of course, like all the example, how the data can be used, like commercial, like what Prof. Suhaimi has mentioned. But to me, I see it is like, okay, so now data is not just something that you run an experiment, you come out a file and then that's it. But that is actually interesting information is there in that file that you just generated or you just collected. Okay, and how you need to handle it. I'm afraid currently in the university's practices, right? We are not really emphasize this process up to the level is whatever data you collected of whatever research project, you must at the end curate and deposit your data into the institution repository. But I know some universities is in progress, like they come up research data management policies. UPN platform allow researchers to upload their research data set. So we see that we are making progress. Malaysians, we are making the progress, right? Even though they're still far away from the ideally what we see, like example in Netherlands, in Australia, they started 10 years ago for the ANDS. You see very successful platform in ANDS. When you search for a particular data set, you click the data, then you link you back directly to the institution repository to get the data. So data is being treated as like the national treasure now. The soil, the oil, the treasure. That's how you want to describe it.
Yeah, maybe if I can add, remember I mentioned about research data management platform that we have, which is actually exactly what Japan has. They are actually taking the raw data as you do. Say, for example, you take a photograph of your gel in a DNA sequence analysis. You could actually already immediately upload it. It is actually more like an electronic lab notebook. So for a PhD student will not be actually scribbling into their lab book, but this is actually scribbling and describing online so that whatever that is born digital, you upload immediately, you make a comment immediately, and that kind of what they call it, information and the text can be actually done as a source of for you to actually do a metadata listing. So that is another thing. Yes, I tend to agree. We have the data, we have the raw data, but sometimes, after doing a survey, somebody will be doing the same survey again, asking the same question again. So if only you can reuse some of that data, first, it must be findable. So there has got to be a way in which you collect. Forget about uploading. You know that at the end of the day, sorry to say, at least in some places where I was, where I was working, at the end of the year, the appraisal, I don't know what they call it, spectrum or whatever in and there is this something, a system. People just jam the system at the end of the year, starting to upload their research publication and so on. To do that, that is not the way to go. It has to be very close to the researcher, very close in such a way that that is your laboratory notebook. You electronically don't write anymore into your physical A4 book, but straight away to make it online. I think that is the way to do for it to be not lost as an afterthought of you to upload or not to upload. I think that is my key take home. So like I said, to those who are interested, so we have a demo which can be done online, and if universities would like to do it as their own on-prem, we will be very happy to actually doing it also. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Suhaimi. I think we are nearing to the end of our webinar today. We actually have some other questions that we unfortunately not able to address, but I think that's okay. We probably will forward the questions to our panelists and we'll take it offline and share the answers with all of you. Okay, so again, thanks a lot to our panelists for the insightful discussion. It's so impressive to know that there's a lot of infrastructure initiatives out there in Malaysia and also around the world about data sharing and open science, and the all thing that we see that all systems, they are actually complement each other in some ways, and all these are important to ensure a conducive research ecosystem for the progress of our nation. So with that, thank you again. And now I shall hand it to the MC, Noor.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Noor Zatil, for moderating this panel discussion, and to our esteemed panelists, Dr. Liu Chi San, Dr. Suhaimi Nafis, and last but not least, Mr. Yasir Muhammad Arifin for the fruitful intellectual discourse on open science. We would like to thank our attendees and Facebook Live viewers for tuning into our forum session today. So to avoid missing latest updates about MOSP or future activities, please follow Academy of Sciences Malaysia and Malaysia Open Science Platform using our social media handles, which I'll be sharing momentarily. Before we adjourn, I kindly request all of the speakers and panelists to remain in the call for a photo session. To our attendees, especially those who are observing Vesak Day tomorrow, on behalf of the Secretariat, we would like to take this opportunity to wish you a happy Vesak Day. So with that said, I would like to conclude our forum today, and I wish everyone a safe and a wonderful day. Thank you.